Today, we open the very first case file of Secret Files. Inside this file, you'll uncover 10 stories and secrets that shape the life and career of The Weeknd. From decisions that changed his destiny to moments that millions of people know nothing about. Behind every album, every hit, and every record lies a story that very few have ever heard. Get ready to open the case file of one of the most influential artists of his generation. This is the case file of The Weeknd. Fact number 1. The arrest that shook his career. In January 2015, just as The Weeknd was beginning to become one of the biggest stars in music, an incident occurred that put his public image at risk. With hits playing worldwide and a career moving at full speed, Abel Tesfaye was enjoying the fruits of success, but he still carried part of the chaotic lifestyle that had marked his youth. While staying at the luxurious Hotel the Cromwell in Las Vegas, a situation spiraled out of control during the night. An altercation caught the attention of hotel security and local police, who quickly arrived to intervene and restore order. According to official reports, when officers were trying to control the situation and separate those involved, Abel ended up directly in the conflict. Authorities stated that the singer struck one of the officers, attempting to defuse the altercation, leading to his immediate arrest. The news spread quickly across the internet, and numerous media outlets began covering the case. For many fans, it was surprising to see The Weeknd's name linked to a police incident just as his popularity was surging globally. Ultimately, Abel managed to resolve the case through a legal agreement. As part of the resolution, he had to fulfill certain requirements set by the court, including community service and other behavioral measures. Thanks to this, he avoided more severe consequences and was able to move forward with his career. Fact number 2. The musical secret he tried to leave behind. Before becoming one of the biggest icons of dark R&B and filling stadiums around the world, Abel Tesfaye had a musical beginning that today seems straight out of a completely different universe. Around 2007, a young Abel was part of a production project known as The Noise. At that stage, the mysterious style, deep lyrics, and aesthetic that characterize him today simply did not exist. Under that project, he recorded several songs with a much more commercial, upbeat, and danceable pop and R&B sound. However, everything would change drastically when he adopted the name The Weeknd to launch his iconic mixtape, House of Balloons, an official project that completely buried his past. Back in the day of The Noise, those old songs didn't have an album. They were simply part of a demo project designed for the radio trends of those years. Tracks like Birthday Suit and Rescue You showed a totally different side of his voice, clean, bright, and adapted to the dominant sound of the time. However, everything changed when he found his true artistic identity and released his famous mixtape trilogy. From that moment on, that sound was left completely behind. But the internet never forgets. Years later, The Noise's recordings leaked entirely online, surprising thousands of followers who couldn't believe that voice belonged to the same creator of House of Balloons. Although Abel never returned to that style, those recordings remain one of the lesser-known chapters of his career, a reminder that even the biggest stars once had a past that very few ever got to know. Fact number 3. The day panic almost ruined everything. Today, Abel Tesfaye is capable of filling stadiums with over 80,000 people around the world, maintaining absolute control of the stage. However, there was a moment when everything could have gone terribly wrong due to an enemy almost nobody talks about: stage fright. In July 2011, after releasing House of Balloons and remaining anonymous for months, the time came to perform in front of an audience for the very first time. The concert took place at the Mod Club in Toronto, and tickets sold out rapidly. Expectations were massive. Thousands of people wanted to finally discover the face of the mysterious artist who was revolutionizing the internet. But behind the stage, reality was completely different. Abel was paralyzed by nerves. After spending so much time letting his music speak for him, he now had to face hundreds of people face to face. Years later, the singer himself revealed that to gather the courage to step onto the stage, he drank a large amount of gin to calm his fear. When he finally appeared under the lights, the complete opposite of what he imagined happened. His voice blew the crowd away from the very first song, and the concert ended up being a resounding success. That night proved that his talent went far beyond studio recordings. What seemed like the beginning of a disaster turned into one of the most important moments of his career. If fear had won that night, the story of The Weeknd could have been very different. That first concert didn't just mark his stage debut, it was the moment he began to conquer the fear that almost stopped him from becoming one of the biggest music stars in the world. Fact number 4. The secret behind a missing letter. Today, the name The Weeknd is one of the most recognizable brands in the entire music industry. However, anyone seeing it for the first time notices something strange. A letter is missing. Many believe it was a simple marketing strategy or an aesthetic detail, but behind that decision lies a much more interesting story. It all began when Abel Tesfaye was just 17 years old. Along with his best friend Lamar Taylor, he decided to drop out of high school. They packed their few belongings into a car, left for a weekend, and never returned home. That moment of rebellion and freedom ended up inspiring the stage name that would accompany him for the rest of his life, The Weeknd. A memory of the weekend he decided to leave everything behind to pursue his dream of becoming a musician. However, when the time came to launch his first project, introduce himself to the world under that name, an unexpected problem appeared. There was already a Canadian band called The Weeknd, so using the exact same name could generate legal conflicts and artistic identity issues right at the start of his career. Instead of starting from scratch and looping for another name, Abel made a decision as simple as it was brilliant. He removed the letter E before the N and the D. Thus, The Weeknd was born, a different name, easy to remember, and entirely his own. What started as a small modification to avoid trouble ended up becoming one of the most iconic brands in modern music. Today, millions of people recognize the name The Weeknd instantly, without ever imagining that this whole identity was born thanks to just a single letter. Fact number 5. The character he never left behind. For most artists, an album ends when the tour finishes or the next project comes out. But for Abel Tesfaye, the After Hours era was much more than just a record. It was a character that seemed impossible to escape. When he launched the album in 2020, The Weeknd began appearing publicly in a sharp red suit, a face covered in wounds, and an increasingly strange attitude. What many thought was simply an outfit for music videos soon turned into something much bigger. For months, Abel maintained the exact same appearance and performances: award shows, music videos, and public appearances. Each new performance continued the story of the previous one, as if the entire After Hours era were a single movie told in chapters. Even when appearing in front of millions of people, he never broke character. As time went on, the wounds became more exaggerated, bandages appeared, and finally, a completely transformed face left thousands of fans wondering what was going on. In reality, it was all part of a critique of the obsession with fame, superficiality, and the excesses of the entertainment industry. Thanks to that level of commitment, After Hours was not only a musical success, but also one of the most memorable visual eras in modern music. Abel didn't just create an album. He built a character so convincing that, for months, the entire world stopped seeing Abel Tesfaye and saw only The Weeknd. Fact number 6. The upbeat album we never heard. For millions of people, The Weeknd's music is tied to melancholy, lonely nights, and broken hearts. But there was a moment when everything could have been very different. Before the release of My Dear Melancholy in 2018, Abel Tesfaye was working on a project with a much brighter sound, upbeat songs, danceable rhythms, and a completely different energy than what we know today. However, a painful breakup completely changed his emotional state. From one moment to the next, that album no longer represented what he was truly feeling. Instead of releasing it out of obligation, Abel decided to shelve it and start from scratch. Years later, he explained that he didn't want to put out music that no longer reflected who he was at that moment, even if it meant leaving behind months of work and a massive investment. That optimistic project never saw the light of day. In its place, My Dear Melancholy was born, a dark, vulnerable, and emotional album that ended up becoming one of the most important eras of his career. Fact number 7. The artist who always wanted to make movies. Although millions of people know him for his music, Abel Tesfaye has confessed on several occasions that cinema has always been one of his greatest passions. Long before imagining his albums, he dreamed of creating stories behind a camera. That fascination has been reflected throughout his entire career. Abel has cited the influence of directors like Stanley Kubrick, Quentin Tarantino, and David Lynch, whose styles have inspired the atmosphere of many of his music videos and performances. During the After Hours era, for example, He built a continuous narrative filled with neon lights, symbolic violence, and psychological tension, featuring an aesthetic that recalls thriller and crime cinema. For The Weeknd, an album has never been just a collection of songs. Each project is a story with characters, settings, and a carefully planned visual identity. In the end, although he never left music behind to become a film director, he found a way to unite both passions and turn every album into a cinematic experience. Fact number 8. When he challenged the Grammys. In 2020, The Weeknd seemed destined to dominate the Grammys. His album After Hours had become a worldwide success, and Blinding Lights was breaking records on streaming platforms and music charts. For millions of people, it was almost impossible to imagine the ceremony without his name among the nominees. But the unexpected happened. When the nominations for the 2021 Grammy Awards were announced, The Weeknd received exactly 0 nominations. The decision sparked widespread controversy among fans, artists, and music critics, who questioned how one of the year's biggest albums had been completely overlooked. Abel didn't stay silent. Through his social media, he called the Grammys corrupt and demanded greater transparency in the nomination process. Soon after, he went even further, announcing that he would never submit his music for Grammy consideration again. With a single decision, The Weeknd publicly severed ties with the music industry's most prestigious awards, turning one of the greatest disappointments of his career into a defining stand that reshaped the conversation surrounding the Grammys. Fact number 9. When Drake discovered The Weeknd. Long before becoming a global superstar, Abel Tesfaye was a complete unknown. Hiding his identity behind the mysterious name The Weeknd, he anonymously uploaded 3 songs to the internet: What You Need, Loft Music, and The Morning. The music quickly caught people's attention, but no one knew who the voice behind those songs belonged to. Everything changed when the tracks reached Drake. Impressed by The Weeknd's unique sound, Drake shared the songs on his blog and social media, introducing the mysterious artist to millions of people who had never heard of him before. Not long after, Drake invited him to contribute to his album Take Care, where Abel co-wrote and performed on several tracks. That collaboration became a turning point, transforming The Weeknd from an anonymous singer into one of the most promising new artists in the music industry. What began with 3 songs uploaded in secret became the first step toward a career that would eventually take The Weeknd to the biggest stages in the world. Fact number 10. The record that seemed impossible. After years of sacrifice, difficult decisions, and a career filled with highs and lows, The Weeknd achieved what once seemed impossible. In 2021, his hit Blinding Lights broke the record for the longest stay in the top 10 of the Billboard. It later went on to be recognized as the greatest performing song in the entire history of the Hot 100. What makes this achievement even more remarkable is that it wasn't accomplished in just a few weeks. While most hit songs quickly fade from the charts, Blinding Lights continued to be streamed and played by millions of people around the world, setting a record that once seemed untouchable. For many artists, breaking a single record is enough to secure a place in music history. But The Weeknd did far more than that. He turned one song into a global phenomenon that redefined what success could look like in the modern music industry. What began with a young artist anonymously uploading songs to the internet ended with one of the most influential musicians of his generation leaving an unforgettable mark on music history. And perhaps that is The Weeknd's greatest secret. He never stopped pushing beyond what seemed impossible. Over the years, The Weeknd has built a career filled with unexpected decisions, little-known stories, and defining moments that helped make him one of the most influential artists of his generation. And while these were some of his most surprising secrets, there are probably many more files still waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Secret Files for more stories and secrets about the world's most famous people. This was Secret Files. See you in the next case file.